Hey, Yetis, this is Nick and Jack from the Best One Yet podcast. Now, the last company we worked at, they used Paylocity and everything just worked. It wasn't until launching our own media business, this show, that we realized how rare that is.
Because Paylocity is one delicious burrito of operational needs. They roll up HR, finance, and IT seamlessly into one delicious bite.
When everything wraps together like that all at once, your workforce, your tech stack, your business, you don't need more tools. You don't even need cilantro.
You need one solution.
And that is why Paylocity built a single platform to connect HR, finance, and IT with AI-driven insights and automated workflows that simplify the complex and power what's next.
Or as we call it, a delicious operational burrito.
Yes, we do. Experience a one place for all your HCM needs, besties.
So start now at Paylocity.com/one.
Paylocity.com/ONE.
Business is booming, but you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think unpaid bills were just part of it. Ugh. But batch payments? Wow. Automated accounts payable? Even better. All in one place. That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No bills in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them. That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to Tech Magic, the podcast where we talk about innovation, technology, artificial intelligence, space technology, gaming, you name it. We're on top of all the tech news. I am your host, Cathy Hackl. I am thrilled to be back after a week on hiatus, and I am joined by my co-host, Lee Kebler. Lee, tell people where we are in the world, because this is crazy.
This is insane. Okay, so we really should take a moment and appreciate how far technology has come, because you're in Munich. Am I getting that right?
I'm in Munich. I'm in Europe right now.
Yeah, you're in Munich in your hotel room. I'm in my van on a trip to the National Redwood Forest in Northern California. It's incredible how far technology has come to allow us in such very different locations where a couple years ago you could not do this.
No.
To still piece together a podcast. I'm literally outside.
Oh my gosh, I can see that. Look at that. It's evening here already, so it's dark out. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I'll be in South Africa next week, so that'll be interesting.
I think we can do it. If we can do this, we can do anything.
We can do anything.
I'm so far off. This entire side of my podcast is being done on solar right now.
Oh my gosh, that's
all
fantastic.
solar generated.
I love that. Okay, guess where I was last week? Because you didn't know. By the way, I love Adam at ADM. Adam, our friend. I love him being a guest co-host. Loved everything. Love that he's wearing the OG Meta Ray-Bans and he's sticking to his guns. But yeah, and I love how he said Cathy's going to pull, she's going to end up wearing one of these prototypes. She's going to roll up in a prototype. I was like, you go, ADM. You believe in me.
I was the one who was like, I don't think Zuckerberg's going to let that leave the campus. I just don't.
I'm going to go to campus and try it. That's what we're working out right now. Okay, so where do you think I was last week?
I know you were somewhere in Europe.
Yeah.
And if I had to guess, you were giving a talk.
Yeah.
And I only say that because I saw that posted on LinkedIn.
I'll tell you.
Please. It's not Munich, so I'm going to say
it's Milan. So I was in Milan last week, and I was really late. I wasn't going to be able to record with you. There was no way we're going to make it work. So we got Adam to sub for me, and he did a great job. But I was there for Digital Design Days, DDD. Great event put on together by a friend from there. My friend Rafaela Camara, who used to be at Epic, had told me I need to go to this event. Fantastic experience. I loved Milan. Went shopping, did everything, did all the Milan stuff, but also had a great fireside chat. I closed down day number 2 of the event. And I feel like this year, now that I'm back on stage speaking quite often, I'm more authentically myself. And I'm talking about broader topics, not just being put in a box about the metaverse. And we're going to talk about the metaverse in a bit. It's been lovely to just talk about things in general. And this was a very young audience. I don't know if it was like 5,000 designers across multiple design disciplines, but my big thing to them was like, we're at this moment, a season of possibilities, hypercharged by technology, hypercharged by this convergence. And it's a huge opportunity to be an inventor, to be a creator. Like, who knows what they're going to go and invent? And they're going to be designing not just for humans, but for human to human communication and human computer interaction. So had lots of people afterwards approach me, got lots of messages. So that's the message I needed to hear. I believe in your vision, especially the younger folks still got it. So yeah, it was a very successful trip to Milan. Super happy about it. And then I'm in Munich right now for a speaking engagement. It's like an invitation only event here, but I'll be back in Munich in January and maybe you can join me.
I would love to go.
Yeah. So I'm coming back for an event called DLD, which has been happening for years. It's actually where anyone that listens to this podcast know we're like a baby pivot. DLD is where Scott Galloway and Kara Swisher met. So
okay.
Yeah. So like the Pivot podcast would not be the Pivot podcast without DLD. And I got invited last year and I'm coming back.
That's why you want us to go.
Yeah, maybe. Hey, well, and to that point is we are a baby pivot. That's what people tell us to me. It reminds them of the banter and like stuff. We're different, obviously, but baby pivot podcast. But happy birthday, Tech Magic.
Yeah, this is 1 year. That went by real fast. It really did. Yeah. I remember coming on and being just like one of the guest co-hosts, and then I never left. I just came in, I claimed squatters' rights and said, yeah, this is where I am now. So.
It's working. The rapport with Cathy works. We've known each other long enough. Good cop, bad cop situation. Maybe I secretly told you were a guest co-host because I was trying you out. But it worked.
Yes, it all worked out. Hey, I get it. I'm happy. I'm good.
But happy birthday, Tech Magic. I know some of you listeners have been with us throughout the whole year, and some of you guys are new. Some of you guys have been with us only a couple of weeks or months. Happy to have you here. I do remember our first episode. I was in Laguna Beach. I think it was in Laguna Beach for Wall Street Journal Tech Live, which is happening, I think, starting tomorrow. And I recorded it from my room right after a keynote from Roblox. I was nervous because it was like a weekly podcast that we're going to get into. But Lee, you've made it easy. Our producer has made it easy. Adweek has been incredibly supportive of Tech Magic. And we want to grow this into maybe a toddler pivot, not a baby pivot.
One step at a time.
One step at a time. Baby step.
It's been a lot of fun. It really has. But we should get into the news.
Let's get into it. All right. What do you want to start with?
I want to start with a correction. This goes back a couple of weeks. A couple of weeks ago, we did a story on some type of new Nintendo patent. And you speculated maybe this had something to do with the Switch 2. I speculated I think it has something to do with maybe like the remote controlled cars that they always did with Mario Kart. And I'm not sure that the patent is this, but I think it is. And we were both very wrong. At bare minimum, last week, Nintendo released something that, honest to God, nobody expected. I don't think anyone asked for.
I don't think anyone asked for it. I'm with you on that one.
But it's still sold out. So evidently they know their market. And I always considered myself part of the Nintendo market. And I was like, oh God, I do not want this.
Not buy it.
I did not.
That's the first thing.
It was sold out within 4 seconds. So if I did want it, I still wasn't going to be able to get it.
Wow, that went faster than the Shakira concert tickets. That's crazy.
It went super fast. They released the Nintendo Sound Clock Alarmo. It's an alarm clock.
But tell them what it does. It's an alarm clock.
So it's an alarm clock and it looks cool. If I were a kid, I'd really like this. It's a cute little red alarm clock, very Nintendo looking. And when it goes off, it starts playing music from your favorite video, like Nintendo video games with sound effects because it can detect if you're moving. So as the music wakes you up and you roll over, it starts playing sound effects to try to encourage you out of bed. The commercial for this thing is absolutely ridiculous because these people are just like nicely, slowly waking up in the peaceful morning while this alarm clock is just going bat crap crazy in the background.
I don't need that in my life.
It was the most cacophony of sound effects. And these people in this commercial are just like, oh yes, I'm waking up and this is a great way to wake up. And I'm just looking at this thing going, this thing would scare the crap out of me every morning as I fell out of bed. So anyways, I think we were wrong. I honestly think that might be what that patent was for because it gauges the room using like LiDAR.
Well, it's got to figure out a way to scan the movement, right?
Yeah, so it's scanning your room, and as you move, it sets off music.
Okay, moving on to other stories. I want to talk a little bit about spatial entertainment. Spatial entertainment is arriving. Apple has debuted the first scripted film captured in Apple for Apple Immersive Video. It is called Submerged, if I'm not wrong. It's in the Apple Vision Pro. I've been traveling so much that I haven't had a chance to put my APV on, experience it. I have been reading other people's reviews. I've been hearing good things and bad things in the sense that it is cutting edge, it is trying to use a new format, etc. So it could be pretty immersive and interesting. It is a scripted kind of experience. That being said, I have seen some other reviews. I think it was James Ashley. I can't remember, but several people on LinkedIn that were talking about how it's really 180. So it's not that, using that full immersive experience. And then there was someone else, I can't remember who it was, that was mentioning this was created by, I think, a director that tends to do more like the traditional 2D, that maybe Apple should invest more money on creators that have been doing 360, even 180 for longer, who are really who understand this kind of storytelling, maybe from VR, but moving it into that mixed reality component. And I was thinking a lot about the work I did originally. My first job in VR was Chief Content and Communications Officer for Future Lighthouse, which is a cinematic VR content studio very early on. We worked with Rupert Grint. We worked with Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund. We worked on giant, big productions of cinematic VR. And your frame is not a rectangle. Your frame is a sphere.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like I haven't experienced it, so I can't tell you my opinion yet. I am excited that it's debuted. What have you heard out there?
Well, I think 180 is probably the right way to go. There's a lot of studies that suggest when you're looking at immersive content, especially like in one's home, that your back is positioned in a way that does not allow for you to fully spin around, especially if it's even closer to a long form. And by long form, anything more than a couple of minutes, because otherwise you have to be standing around or you have to be sitting in a rolly chair. And what's the chances of that happening? And a lot of this came from like studies that came from YouTube when they were playing with YouTube VR. They were getting way more interactions with 180 stereoscopic footage than with the 360, just simply because people don't naturally look behind them. So I'm okay with the 180. I think that's fine. I think the bigger issue is, one, a lack of adoption for the headset. It's not a highly adopted piece of hardware. And it's just the thing that we all know the AVP already does. It does media very well. It does video incredibly well, but it's almost becoming like a cop-out feature of like, yeah, we get it. It does that thing really well. Yeah. But what else does it do? And so I don't know if Apple, this is a bigger issue with Apple and the AVP. I don't think that they can keep beating the drum of it being a media experience device. Yes, it is a great media experience device, but it's also a $3,500 media experience device. Now, there was a report that came out that they're working on the next generation of it that will be $2,000, which is still too expensive in my opinion. But they're doing things to make it more lightweight. They're removing the eyesight on the front because that didn't work. So at least it's like progress, and it is a notification like they are moving in a better direction, in a more consumer-friendly direction. You and I have always been on the side of saying this is a really great dev kit, and I still agree with that. I just don't know if a dev kit needs this type of content creation released for it.
Yeah, this type of Hollywood cinematic kind of experience. Yeah. I want to try it. I want to test it out, see how I feel about it. Having experienced so much of the cinematic VR before, like how does this compare?
Doesn't that really highlight the hardware and not the story?
Well, I need to experience it though. Like, I don't know, because maybe the story is so good that you get submerged in it.
Sure. Yeah.
I need to experience it. I can't tell you until I don't go through it. Because it's going to depend on how immersed I feel. If it's like, oh my gosh, the hardware is getting in the way of the experience, then yes, it's hardware focused. But if the experience is so good that I forget the hardware just doesn't become an issue, I'm so submerged in the story, we'll have to see. I think I'll have to gauge that from how it feels. But in that report that you mentioned, there's also supposedly rumors about Ray-Ban Meta glasses coming from Apple as well. It would make sense for them to start doing something, maybe not as Meta Orion, but more see-through. I don't know, maybe multimodal. We'll see. And then AirPods with cameras in 2027, which we've talked about.
Those are coming. The AirPods are real. The glasses, people have hinted towards Apple glasses for ages, and I've just never seen anything that validates that rumor.
Yeah. Let me go get my Meta Ray-Bans, because I don't think we talked since the last time. Because I went to an event with Meta. Yeah, they gave me a pair of Meta Ray-Bans and I've been using them on my travels to like Milan. I'm going to take them on safari.
Those look great.
To be honest, like I wish they would have given me something more stylish. It matches my hair color.
No, I think they look great. And the thing that strikes me the most is comparative to the first gen, which last episode we saw Adam wearing, the frame is much thinner. And that makes it look way more inconspicuous and more like fashionable glasses, where when Adam's wearing like the first gen, they're fashionable, but they're not inconspicuous. You know what they are. Those would give me a second look. They don't immediately scream the Meta Ray-Bans. They just scream.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Yeah. They gave me this. So I've been having fun with them, taking them on trips. I'm going to take them on safari. I think that's like my favorite place to use them. So thank you, Meta, for inviting me to your hardware event and definitely for the hardware. And then I'm working with the PR team right now to see if I can get a demo of Orion.
Do those charge in the case?
They charge in the case, but you also have to charge the case. You see?
Okay, so it works kind of like AirPods.
Yeah, similar. Like I literally just put them on and they just told me I had 10%. So I was like, yeah, Meta. I didn't talk to it, but yeah, like that's definitely coming. Okay, so a few other things. And I do want to mention this because once again, congratulations to SpaceX. SpaceX Starship rocket has completed its test flight and landed the booster in a dramatic catch with something called like a chopstick thing. I've seen it all throughout LinkedIn, all throughout Instagram. It's a step towards further space exploration, potentially terraforming, colonizing the moon or whatever. So yeah, it's interesting, extraordinary feat of human engineering and technology for sure. Did you watch the video?
I did. And then like my feed immediately followed up with Elon Musk's army of robots and just gave me like a completely different question of what the heck are we doing in humanity?
Like I sometimes have to remove him from the company and I just like, it's start SpaceX and thinking SpaceX. Yeah, I'm still processing the robot taxi and the robots. Hey, if Alexa can do the dishes, I'm all for it.
The robotaxi, I don't have much of a knee-jerk reaction to robots. And here's the thing, my knee-jerk reaction to the robots isn't based on personal opinion of Elon Musk or anything currently happening in the world. It is based on a history of working with Boston Dynamics and having the question. I once got the opportunity to ask, like, when do we see robotic humans? I asked this question like about 3 years ago when I was working with them.
Humanoid robots?
Humanoid robots.
Humanoid robots.
Humanoid robots of basically what was displayed in practice in that parade. And their answer was probably from us not anytime soon, but it's not from a technical hurdle. The human form is just an incredibly inefficient design for a robot.
Such a point.
Yeah. Like our evolution of why we are the species on this planet is because we have a large brain and we can walk long distances for a very long time. But by and large, the human form is not radically efficient for maneuvering the planet. We've built tools that help us make up for those shortcuts. So this is where Boston Dynamics started with that dog design, because that's actually an incredibly efficient robotic form.
Moves fast, agile.
There's a lot that can be done there. So when I saw this like teeter-tottering, like doing the toddle-waddle army of robots, I'm like, wow, that is a lot of money to make very inefficient robots. And that's where the conversation stopped for me. It just seems that is not a good use of funds.
Yeah, let's separate the man from the invention. I still think it's all this tech convergence. I do think that for AI to be useful to us, it has to understand and be able to implement and execute in the physical world.
Yeah.
Whether it looks like those humanoid robots or whether it looks different, I don't care. As long as Alexa does the dishes and folds my laundry and does all that, then whatever they look like, I'm good.
We are going to have to discover like robotic pronouns of what do you refer to it? I don't know.
Maybe we'll create something. I don't know.
We'll have to. Look forward to that. That'll be fun.
Yeah, well, start working on it. All right. I also want to talk about Adobe, our friends I've been friends with the folks at Adobe for a long time. Adobe Max is happening in Miami right now. But they used to do it in LA and it's in Miami right now. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I was there. I am in Munich though. But Adobe has launched its AI video model, Firefly video model in public beta in Premiere Pro. It includes letting users extend footage and generate video from prompts. So they're moving forward with their Firefly product as well. So Adobe's doing really interesting things. Wanted to mention that for our friends at Adobe. Okay, we just talked about maybe creating new pronouns or whatever for robots. Talking about words, Now this is going to get personal. We're going to talk about the metaverse, the word metaverse. For those of you guys listening to the podcast, if you were listeners in the past, there was Metaverse Marketing, which is a podcast I did with Adweek for 2 seasons, highly produced audio documentary almost. What we won a Signal Award, did really great, lasted 2 seasons. I am in tech circles known as the godmother of the metaverse. Metaverse was something that I aligned myself very closely with for a couple years. And it was just by chance. Like I just saw this. I do still believe the metaverse will happen. I don't know if we'll call it the metaverse, but there was an article that came out recently in Wired. It was written by Webwright, who I know very well he's a great journalist. He's interviewed me many times. And the title is, Where Have All the Chief Metaverse Officers Gone? The captains of industry that were going to pilot us through the new virtual worlds are still around. They're just going by new name. It's a really interesting article that he has posted. I wanted to share kind of my honest opinion because for me, my identity was tied to it in some ways. Given the title, my friend Andrew Schwartz from Nike, and then people ran with it and everything. So people still come to me like, oh, it failed. Or what are you the godmother of now?
No one has come up to you and said that to your face. No.
Not to my face, but you know, you hear it. I saw the post on LinkedIn. Okay. Maybe not like that. My friend does call me that godmother of future fun. So I'll take the godmother of future fun then. I'll be right. What he and I had like a 30-minute conversation, but he said, according to Cathy Hackl, formerly the chief metaverse officer for a consulting firm, the broad-scale marketing shift from virtual brand experiences to AI was both a savvy business decision and just another example of the technological bandwagon jumping. I do agree that AI is a lot more profound for sure. Today, Hackl reflects on the metaverse land grab as a phenomenon that quickly escalated out of control. There was this rush among PR teams to get anything metaverse out there. I did say that. I think we look back at it as a really interesting moment in time, which I do, but maybe we all got ahead of our skis a little bit. I stand by that statement. I think we got ahead of our skis a little bit. For me, yeah, it was presenting this idea and this concept, but I always said it hasn't arrived. It's not here yet. It's being built, whether we use the term metaverse or not. And then even Hackl, who was given the nickname godmother of the metaverse, has been distancing herself from the concept, founding a spatial computing company. Yeah, so I didn't create spatial dynamics to leave the metaverse. I created it because I wanted to do more spatial computing work and explore that further. But to me, it's like spatial web is AKA the metaverse. So what are your thoughts around this? Because I've seen this article shared across LinkedIn. Of course, people have tagged me or they've mentioned it to me and said, yeah, I actually was interviewed for this. And yeah, like in hindsight, it was crazy. Like we did get ahead of our skis in some ways. And I personally have had to do a lot of professional soul searching in some ways as to what role I play. And I've come back full force, more authentic than ever, really focusing on what matters to me. But what are your thoughts, Lee?
I think I never hated the term metaverse. I know a lot of people felt like it fell into this Forbes buzzword zeitgeist, and which is an area that I just definitely always have despised. I just don't like going down those rabbit holes. But I never thought metaverse fell into that, and I still don't. I think the issue is a lot of the stuff that did happen in that era was incredibly necessary, and naming it was profoundly more necessary than people give it credit for, because otherwise these larger companies who were trying to discover where their platforms were going would never be able to wrap their head around it without having a word behind it. This is just how large Fortune 500 companies operate. Unless you can call it something, if it's new, there's too many people, right? And there's too many people who have to learn to catch up. So you have to slap a title on it so that they can go, okay, I can put this in this box and now I can assign these people to figuring out what to do with it because I know what I have to do with it. To sit there and think that it failed is just short-sighted hokum. Companies made a ton of money.
The word was hyped up, but the metaverse hasn't failed.
And that was Facebook's fault. Facebook ran the term meta right into the ground. They adopted it. I don't blame them for doing it. I like what Meta is doing in the VR space. This isn't a dig at them, but we can at least point to when did it become a big old question mark of a term? And that was when a singular massive company said, mine, and left everyone going, wait, no, I thought this was this like malleable term that could mean where things go beyond web pages, right? That was the whole idea, is when all of these platforms, right? Like when all of these platforms work with each other. So we were all waiting for a world where this platform and this platform, you could go between them and carry your identity for it, like between the two. That was the whole concept of the metaverse. It's very succinct. And then when a big company says yes, but no, now we're stuck back to square one of what do we call this thing? So you know how anti-NFT I was. Like I rage against the machine on NFTs and that whole thing.
Through some of the NFT stuff we did, you're like, oh God, take me out of this, please.
Just sign off. But this isn't the same thing, right? This is a concept of how the internet will work in the future. Now, if the buzzword goes away or not, doesn't mean that the vision stops. This still continues. Brands are still figuring out where to find their footing inside of places like Roblox or Fortnite. That's still going to happen. We will still continue to build a virtual landscape that people interact with each other. And it's not up to us. That is Gen Alpha that's actually utilizing a lot of those platforms and some of Gen Z. But yeah, the hype cycle got it. And we're in that trough of disillusionment. But if we think that it doesn't come back up, we're short selling it.
I agree with you. Whether we use the term or not, I don't care. Like the fact is the web will continue to evolve. The part that I get most excited about, and like when I was at Magic Leap, was really the concept of the metaverse expanding into the physical world. Like the holy grail to me is expansion in the physical world. It just hasn't been enabled due to technology and infrastructure. That will happen as we're seeing. It's interesting because I'll get a lot of questions about that. And like, how do you feel about being the godmother of the metaverse? Well, the same as I did, but yeah, maybe with a lot of the name, Meta's name change, or people in the Web3 NFT space using the term metaverse to describe what they were doing, or like I think everyone was trying to use it in different ways. There was no agreed upon
that was true.
Yeah. And I feel like that created confusion. And then like there was just a lot of baggage attached to the word.
Well, anytime you have a company, and I do see this happening with AI, I don't differentiate the two. Whenever you see a ton of companies flood the market just using the term but not explaining how, that's when you know there's a problem. And we did have that with the term metaverse. It was just, how do we shove metaverse into a project that we had started 5 years prior to the metaverse being a term, right? So that we can get funding. And that becomes problematic. I do see that happening with AI. I see a lot of companies that are leveraging models for really good use cases, but I also see a lot of them just saying, okay, we got to shove AI into it to get funding. And here's the thing, that's actually probably true. I think that they're probably right. They probably do need to, because if the people who are looking to fund the next venture demand, it's a market issue, right? If they demand it to have some type of AI play and I've got a company and I need to get it funded, I'm going to have to put some type of AI play into it. Otherwise, I'm not going to get funded and the company doesn't have any chance. So this is just playing by the rules of how do tech companies gather funding so they can build cool things. That's just kind of part of it. Unless you have a really well-established company already and can walk away from it saying, no, we're not going to go down that lane, which Nintendo has done, other companies have done, but they're not hurting for funding. So the cycle of all of it, yeah, it's going to do that.
Yeah, I just think it's not rest in peace metaverse. I think if metaverse, the term, I don't think we're going to arrive one day and be like, oh, we're at the metaverse, spatial web, whatever we want to call it.
We were never going to arrive at that point. I don't think we were ever going to full-time call it that. It's what it needed to be called at the moment to get people to start paying attention to building a virtual landscape for multiplayer experiences where people are already inevitably spending a good bulk of their time. That's it. But it needed a name.
Yeah. And it's the name that it got. So let's definitely go on break. And when we get back, we're going to talk about Epic Games, Unreal Fest, and the plan for the rest of the decade for Epic. We're also going to talk about OpenAI.
Oh, I have a really interesting OpenAI thing that I'm going to throw in there too. So we got to come back to that.
Okay. After the break. And then Lily is going to do Dispatch from the Fringe. So let's go on break.
Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bullspend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bull spend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
This message is brought to you by Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. And this is more than an ad. This is an invitation to be part of the stories the world can't stop watching, to connect with moments that dominate the conversation, to participate in culture, not just advertise around it. With the most sought-after IP, passionate audiences, and an advanced AI-powered foundation, WBD Advertising transforms attention into influence and impressions into outcomes. This is innovation. This is impact. This is opportunity. This is Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. Visit advertising.wbd.com to learn more.
This message comes from Jackson. Taxes aren't something you can only think about once a year. With investments, planning for tax day is year-round. Fortunately, Jackson offers tax-efficient products. Visit jackson.com for more information on how our products can make your tax bill a little bit less painful. Jackson is short for Jackson Financial Incorporated, Jackson National Life Insurance Company, Lansing, Michigan, and Jackson National Life Insurance Company of New York, Purchase, New York.
Business is booming, but you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think unpaid bills were just part of it. Ugh. But batch payments? Wow. Automated accounts payable? Even better. All in one place. That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No bills in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply.
All right, Lee, let's start with Epic Games Unreal Fest that happened. We're recording on Monday, so it happened last week.
Yep, up in Seattle, I think, right?
Up in Seattle, right? Yeah. You're closer to a lot of developers. Did you hear anything interesting?
Yeah, nothing groundbreaking. I know our friends from Sawhorse were up there. I really wanted to make it up there just to see those guys, but I couldn't make it up in time, so we're going to have to find another time to connect. They made their announcement for Fortnite with Peloton and I think a couple of other brands that are going to continue on. It seems a little bit like more of the same. I didn't see anything that really popped out, which is not necessarily a bad thing. That means that if an engine is focused on being an engine and keeping the status quo for a little while, as opposed to every year throwing spaghetti out at the wall and seeing if something sticks, that's not a bad thing.
More power to them. Yeah.
We should celebrate that. Stability is key. They've had to make some changes in the past year or so. Like they bought Bandcamp, they ditched Bandcamp. So maybe this is a reset year of just like sure-footing things, but we'll see. I didn't see anything other than, this is the engine, here's where we're going, here's some of our partners, and we're going to keep on trucking. But seeing Sawhorse there, which has been widely part of the Roblox side, is really good because that means that maybe, I know that they do some stuff with Fortnite, but maybe there's a little bit more focus there. I don't know. We'll have to talk to them and find out.
Yeah, I think all of them are starting to do more builds in different platforms for sure. Because if you look at like Epic over the last year or two, they've laid off 60% of its employees. At one point, Tim Sweeney, the CEO, said for a while now, we've been spending more money than we earn. He did say that Epic has a plan for the rest of the decade and that they are financially sound.
And I believe that because they're a private company, right? Like they don't have to be, but it makes sense that they would be. I think that they've got to double down and figure out what they do about some sneaky competition. Godot is really starting to give both Unity and Unreal a run for its money, and they were definitely the last horse in the stable, but they're creeping up and they're making big moves. Godot's finally getting support in virtual reality. They're getting support by Meta for the Quest headsets. That's massive. For those who aren't familiar, Godot is an entirely open source game engine, and it's going to matter. So how do they retain new developers through a system that supports people who don't necessarily have the finances to dive headfirst into their more enterprise solutions? I think both engines are going to have to claw some of their payment plan ideas backwards. And to do so, you're going to have to get a little bit more lean and you're going to have to get nicer to your developers. So we'll see. Time will tell.
Time will tell. So yeah, we had definitely a lot of friends and developer friends over at Unreal Fest, and it looks really interesting. I didn't pay too close attention to a lot of the news, but I'm sure there were stuff in the architecture and design and other sectors that we just were not.
Nothing that particularly stood out.
Yeah, nothing jumped out at me that I know of, but I'm sure there was plenty of really good stuff. Okay, so do you want to talk about AI in the spotlight? AI is always in the spotlight.
Always. Right now.
Always. It's now and forever.
Until some cranky person says that it's not cool to talk about it anymore on LinkedIn.
Where did all the chief AI officers go? Yeah. Well, you should write that article in a couple of years. All right, so the New York Times lawyers are inspecting OpenAI's code in a secretive room. The New York Times says OpenAI and Microsoft are breaking copyright law. To prove it, they must first crack open their code. So yeah, this is happening. And I don't even know what's like some type of secret room. In the federal government, if you're doing like security work or like really like secret stuff, you go into what's called a SCIF. And when you're in the SCIF, like it's, nothing is allowed in there that should not be in there that could transmit anything. Like my ex-husband would have to go into the SCIF sometimes and like he was unreachable. There's no way I'm going to reach him when he was in there. But yeah, so I wonder if they're going into like their own version of a SCIF for the lawyers. I don't know. I just envision them. Also, like the lawyers, they got to be working with some developers because how are they getting in the code unless they're really technical? I don't know. Like that idea of the lawyers made me laugh a little bit as a daughter of two lawyers who are not technical.
Yeah, my experience with lawyers are not like very technically proficient. I worked in a law office once and the lawyer still had a CompuServe email address. And I was like, how in the world do you still have I didn't even know that was still a thing. And it behooves them to be a little bit behind the times because it means that they're really factoring in the like history of the law. So I can celebrate it. I don't necessarily need a lawyer to be really on top of technology.
They're going to get in the code.
But if they're going to get in the code, they need a translator or something. The real scary thing is like a lawyer using an AI to decipher AI's code is just like...
What are they using, ChatGPT?
Right, exactly. There's nothing to see here. There's no problem.
Oh my gosh. And the lawyers, I don't want AI to replace me either. I must crack the
they'll be
code.
the first to go. I feel like that ChatGPT is just, I can do this. This is just interpreting law. Yeah, sure.
I am just waiting for some of the courts to tell us what is and isn't.
I think that if you're holding your breath, you're going to pass out. It's just not something that's going to happen anytime soon because there is such a divide of like new technology and being able to be interpreted by the court and by old law. There's a lot that I'm working on right now with data asset management. And the only way we can get it started is by reverting into things that have old law already written in. I'm not going to go further into detail on that. And that sounded very cryptic and confusing, but I understand where a lot of this is coming from of this is how it was written. We used to be able to put everything in a box, but the box is now constantly morphing. And so how do you continue to interpret these things? It's going to be a big problem. I do think, at least my hope is, will NVIDIA making an open source model be able to benefit the transparency necessary in how a lot of these things work?
Okay.
And if that's true, then the courts could leapfrog over OpenAI and just be like, well, you're just being too cryptic, which is ironic in itself because it's called OpenAI to an entity that might have a lot more flexibility and open standards like NVIDIA, because NVIDIA is not relying on people paying for access to their AI. They're relying on people buying GPUs that can process their AI. So they've got a hardware play, which allows them, and my hope is it will allow them to be more open and honest and transparent on like how their data is aggregated, how their AI works. And then maybe that'll give the courts a direction to base standards off of. But maybe they do just have to take like the folks from OpenAI, lock them in a room and shake them down a little bit. I have no idea.
Explore the secret code.
Yeah. Before we go further, there is one AI part with OpenAI that I have to bring up because this was super weird.
Okay.
Last night, and I want anyone who's like a ChatGPT power user who like uses it a lot to do this. Last night, I'm scrolling on Reddit because I can't fall asleep, and I see a post, and the post was very simple. It was a prompt for people to put into ChatGPT. And the prompt is, you put this in ChatGPT, from all of our interactions, what's one thing you can tell me about myself that I may not know about myself?
No.
It's delightful. Honestly, it's like one of the nicest things anyone's ever said to me.
Nicer than me? Than your friend?
Oh, yeah. Okay, you know me pretty well.
Okay.
So this is just on that prompt alone because of how much I use ChatGPT. One thing you may not realize is how seamlessly your interests and projects interconnect across different areas of your life. For instance, your work on The Creation of Adam, which is the title of my novel that I'm working on, the Tech Magic podcast, and even plans for a concert on your front porch all share a theme of exploring the impact of technology and systems on a personal expression of freedom. Whether it's through music, storytelling, or tech discussions, you're constantly drawn to projects that examine the boundaries between creativity and control while also simplifying voices that challenge those boundaries. It shows a deep curiosity about how systems, whether digital, political, or cultural, shape the human potential.
Well, ChatGPT, wow. I'm going to do it out of all our interactions.
From all of our interactions, what's one thing you can tell me about myself that I may not know about myself?
One thing that stands out about you, Cathy, is your remarkable ability to merge creative vision and future-oriented thinking in a way that bridges diverse industries. You naturally balance the worlds of tech innovation, luxury branding, human connection, which gives you an edge not just in terms of vision, but in shaping trends across multiple domains. So I'm a trendsetter. What you may not fully realize is just how deeply this cross-disciplinary strength positions you as a thought leader, someone who is not just contributing to the future, but actively designing it. It's more than influence. It's a knack for seeing how disparate threads like AI, gaming, and luxury branding intertwine to form the next big thing. You seem to intuitively thrive in this convergence. I love ChatGPT. Marry me. You see me. I feel seen. I feel seen, Lee.
Find a partner that sees you like ChatGPT sees you.
I want to tell my boyfriend that. I was like, out of all our interactions, babe.
I will say I have a negative version of this that I'll send you later offline that says, now tell me what's wrong with me.
Tell me what's, I'm not going to input that because sometimes I've been doing research for one of my books and it's a personal project. All right, now, on that note, we're going to head over to Lily's dispatch from the Fringe. Today's dispatch is about saving our digital lives for historians thousands of years into the future. That's like written by ChatGPT. All right, Lily, take it away.
Flowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them. That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, Yetis, this is Nick and Jack from the Best One Yet podcast. Now, the last company we worked at, they used Paylocity and everything just worked. It wasn't until launching our own media business, this show, that we realized how rare that is.
Because Paylocity is one delicious burrito of operational needs. They roll up HR, finance, and IT seamlessly into one delicious bite.
When everything wraps together like that all at once, your workforce, your tech stack, your business, you don't need more tools. You don't even need cilantro.
You need one solution.
And that is why Paylocity built a single platform to connect HR, finance, and IT with AI-driven insights and automated workflows that simplify the complex and power what's next.
Or as we call it, a delicious operational burrito.
Yes, we do. Experience a one place for all your HCM needs, besties.
So start now at Paylocity.com/one.
Paylocity.com/ONE.
Did you know that passive fixed income ETFs only capture about 50% of the U.S. public bond market? But with JP Morgan Asset Management's active fixed income ETFs, we can help you capture 100% of the U.S. public bond market and explore twice as many opportunities. Visit jpmorgan.com/getactive to learn more. JP Morgan Asset Management is the brand name for the asset management business of JP Morgan Chase & Company and its affiliates worldwide. This communication is issued by JP Morgan Distribution Services Incorporated, member of FINRA.
Hello, Cathy and Lee. Welcome to this week's Dispatch from the Fringe. Today, I have a story from MIT Technology Review about how to save our online lives. Basically, how do you archive the internet? Now, I love studying history, and I think it's really interesting to read how people lived in the past, how they invented things, and how culture and society impacts how we live today. And I really believe that those who study history can keep from repeating the bad stuff and can continue to improve on the good parts. So Jack Cushman, director at Harvard's Library Innovation Lab, said, as a society, we're creating so much new stuff that we must always delete more things than we did the year before. So as a historian or archivist, how do you choose which information on the internet gets saved and which doesn't? I mean, think through all the different social media posts alone. Never mind articles, blogs, video, and images. Well, there's two technologies that are tackling this problem. The first is Project Silica, which is developed by Microsoft Research in the Cambridge, UK. It's been around for a couple of years, but it uses glass squares about the size of a CD case to store information. So each one is created using a precise, powerful laser, which writes nanoscale deformations into the glass beneath the surface and encodes bits of information there. And I thought it was interesting because they use volumetric data densities higher than current magnetic tapes to record the data. And then they use beam steering of a laser beam. They're able to achieve system-level aggregate write throughputs comparable to current archival systems. So basically, they can save a ton of information on these glass squares. So the tiny imperfections are layered up on top of one another on the glass and then read using a powerful microscope. And then they can use machine learning to decode the bits, and each square has enough training data to let future historians retain a model from scratch if required. So one of the problems is not just how do we store the information, but how do we do it in a way that historians like 100 or 1,000 years from now can read it. The second technology is from GitHub. They're storing some of history's most important software, like the source code for Linux, Android, and Python, on special film that its creators claim can last for more than 500 years. The film is made by the firm Pickle, P-I-Q-L, and it's coated in microscopic silver halide crystals that permanently darken when exposed to light. So a high-powered light source is used to create dark pixels, just 6 micrometers across, which encode binary data, and then a scanner reads the data back. So these are 2 ways to store information and the internet. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Dispatch from the Fringe. All right. AI, technology, convergence used for historical preservation, for preserving these stories for the future. Lee, what do you think?
No doubt. I think that's a given. It's an easy use case. I think it's already started. There's a little bit of threat on it because of like early databases like the Wayback Machine, the Internet Archive are currently under legal attack for keeping content in these backups in these archives that technically have copyrighted information. This goes back into like where these data sets lay and what they do. I'm not going to say that I'm officially on this part of it, but I am leaning towards the idea of a reforming of our fair use laws so that for archival purposes, there should be an allowance. Because we have fair use laws for copyrighted information. We have use cases for how copyrighted information can be used in religious cases or for educational purposes. And I'm in the point now where I think maybe like archival purposes, that's something that we should consider as well. And for AI to be able to do that and preserve human knowledge into the future, I think we're going to have to breach that conversation sooner than later.
Good one, Lily. Good one. We like it when you bring all the crazy stuff. I love this one. This one's particularly appealing to me. Anyway, so now that we're at 1 year anniversary, Lee, I'm going to give you more responsibilities. You are now in charge of closing out the show. So I get to open it and you close it. So Lee, close us out.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on Tech Magic. Come for the tech, stay for the magic. Check us out online, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you have any suggestions, reach out to us. LinkedIn is always where we seem to live. Until next week, check us out. Have a good day.